All right, Shalom. I want to start out by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Kakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the brothers out there that's tuned in. Just want to go on a quick lesson. Basically going into, the physician. It's like I'm saying it, saying it kind of wrong, but physician. What you got many physicians. You got the physicians in the world of the hospital. The doctors. What do? They promote healing. But the true power, the true entity that's actually able to heal starts off with Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Like what he say? He says, he brings life, he brings death, he wounds and he heals. So all that actually comes from the Lord. So when we are looking for healing, when we're looking to be healed of our infirmities, whatever it may be demons, whatever it may be spirits, or whatever it may be, you have to go to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Because ultimately those little infirmities that you have, where it may be in the mind, you may have certain things in the body, those are demons in the first place, and you have to go to Yahweh Shem Yahushai in order to get those, to get healed from it. I just want to go into the meaning of physician real quick. A person qualified to practice medicine. Let's go into the root. Doctor. Medic. Oh, there you go. Right? It's a great one right here. A person who cures moral or spiritual ills. A healer. And there you go. And that's how Shai starting off. So I had a couple of scriptures just to, go into it. Go ahead and get my, let me see. This book of Mark. Well, let's get it in KJV because it's got the red letter. This book of Mark, chapter 12 and verse 8. Salakia, what's that? 2 verse 17, Salakia. Mark 2 verse 17. I start here. When Yahushua heard it, he said unto them, I could read up. I'll just get to the point. When Yahushua heard it, he said unto them, they that are whole have no need of the physician, which we know Yahushua to be that physician, which he's a healer, which I'm going to go into that as well. He brings life. He could purify you of all your ailments, man. So this is really talking about Yahushua. They that are whole have no need of the physician. So the people that don't need that ain't going through nothing. What I'm saying? They rich in this world. They got it all set up for them. They ain't got no problems. They ain't stressed out. They don't mind the unrighteous decrees that's being allowed here. They don't mind the devious, laws and acts that's here. Person that's just okay with everything. Hey, you don't need Yahushua. He's good. He's set up. They that are whole have no need of the physician, but they that are sick. And who is ultimately sick? Really the elect, the chosen. What are they sick of? They're sick of all the abominations that are done in the midst. Ultimately, hey, they're sick of that. Hey, they're sick in the body, the flesh. They may have ailments. They're being tormented by Satan. They gotta, they just getting tried in all type of different manners. Hey, so, hey man, they sick. They're looking for a healer, and ultimately that healer is Yahushua. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. And why? Because the sinners are the ones that needs saving. Those are the ones that needs help. The righteous, which is, it's not really talking about righteous people, but really the people that are good, that are set up here. Because ultimately the true, what I'm saying, righteous is the elect. But Yahweh Shah did come for the sinners. But the point of it is that he is that physician. Let me get my second scripture real quick. Start off with this one. Book of Matthew chapter 8 and verse. Start in verse 1. And when he was come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. And behold, there came a leper and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou can make me clean. This man actually had a plague of leprosy. But his faith in Yahweh Shai, let's continue on, and Yahweh Shai put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. So this man actually had belief that the Lord was able to heal him. He acknowledged Yahweh Shai being the Lord, and he had faith and belief that in his healing power, which is the reason why he got healed. And this is one of the things we got to do today, is understand that, good health comes from Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. And you gotta believe in that. It doesn't come in from it doesn't really come. Yeah, there's benefits of eating the food, but you gotta have faith in Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. In order for those that food to have effect, to have the true effect, man. You gotta have faith in the Lord. If thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And Yahweh Shai put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. So just by his belief, and also by Yahweh Shai actually touching him, he was cleansed. Which again goes into the Lord being that physician. That the healer, what they say, healer of spirits, something of that sort. Book of Mark chapter 5 and verse. So that verse. Okay, it's going up. Verse 25. And a certain woman, which had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse. So she actually went to doctors and, tried many, went to doctors, and, went to different, people which have the power of physician, which being able to heal, that was probably studied in herbs, and, she spent a lot of money on trying to get that that ailment cured, but nothing never came through. Let me read it again. And had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse. When she had heard of Yahweh Shai, came in the press behind, and touched his garment. For she said, if I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And ultimately, that's faith. And like I said, she acknowledged. Yahweh Shai being Lord. And that faith. Had faith and belief that, just by her going up to the Lord and acknowledging him by touching his garment, that she'll be healed. But you're going to get to that point. For she said, if I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. So just by her touching Yahweh Shai, she was healed. And Yahweh Shai immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, which that virtue, I looked it up a while ago, was going into power. And Yahweh Shai immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, "Who touched my clothes?" And his disciples said unto them, "Thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou, Who touched me?" So Yahweh Shai was already about, already around a multitude of people. But there was one with faith, needed to be healed, and all she did was just but touched his garment, and Yahweh Shai instantly knew that someone of faith touched him and had received healing power. You got to picture it like Yahweh Shai being crowded by a bunch of people probably already touching him, stuff like that. But the woman that was actually sick and in need of healing, she got treatment, ultimately because she used faith. Her faith was the reason why she was actually able to be healed. But we'll continue on. And Yahweh Shai early in the morning. And Yahweh Shai immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, "Who touched my clothes?" And his disciples said unto him, "Thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou, Who touched me?" And he looked around about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. And he said unto her, "Daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace and be whole of thy plague." So yeah, it was her faith. It was her faith that made her whole. But this is all an example of how strong faith actually is. You having faith in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, power goes out. Even just reading that right now, reading that again, you get more understanding of it. What I'm saying? It's the faith that activates the healing power coming from Yahweh Shai. Because like I said, Yahweh Shai is that physician. He's that great physician. In order to receive health, yeah, you could know the name of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, but without that faith, there's going to be non-effect. You got to believe and have faith that Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, can heal you. Yeah, that's just a beautiful story right there. But yeah, I just wanted to go into that basically. That ultimately, if you want to receive any type of healing power, which is with that virtue, you want to receive any type of treatment, you have to start off, in prayer, asking Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, having faith and belief, that he will heal you. And he will do it. And everything's for an appointed time. And sometimes it may come, the healing may come instantly. Sometimes it may come when you need it the most. But that faith is what's going to make you whole. So again, Yahweh Shai is that physician. So with that, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Kakodash. Again, double honor to the elders and apostles of the great millstone. Dwell Yahweh Shem Shai, Shalom to the brothers after this tuned in. Shalom.